I think Dr. Lucy McKenzie, we have shared a couple of platforms together. So I feel like we're a nice team, tight team, and I'm sure we'll keep the audience very, very excited and very informed. Just coming back to your question, Nabo, by the way, Nabo is not an acronym. Nabo is a Maasai word that means number one, which reflects our aspiration to be the number one investment firm in Africa. And Nabo was birthed out of the successes of Centum that stretches over 50 years. So we were investing when I joined the Centum group over 15 years ago, and we were investing our own money, our shareholders' money, 39,000 shareholders, because it's a listed company. And we were very successful doing that. And people started coming to us and saying, okay, we can see you guys are doing something that is incredible. How can we participate in that without necessarily buying the Centum share? Can we give you our money and you manage for us and you have the same trajectory as you have for yourself? And it really got us to scratch our heads, and we eventually made the decision to get a license as a fund manager and open the doors to receiving money from anybody else and helping them to replicate the successes that we had enjoyed at Centum. So our journey then began in 2013, and I spinned off with my entire team, and we formed Nabo Capital. And we really asked ourselves, why did we need another one fund manager? There were only 17 fund managers then. And the one insight that I got is that over like 10 years before that, the number of securities that were in the stock exchange was 60, and the number of government securities were about 130. It had remained like that for more than a decade. And I said, if you look at the wall of money that was coming to invest in Kenya, it was only increasing in leaps and bounds. But the investment variety had remained the same. And we said, you know what, this is really the space that we should play in, because we have been investing in Africa for a long time. And we said, why not open it up to other people? And in the continent, we have over 700 securities that we invest in. So if Kenya, we can't make money in Kenya, we go to Egypt. If you can't make money in Egypt, we go to Nigeria. And we keep moving our money, and that's how we've been able to create wealth for shareholders. So we began our journey, and today we manage over 20 billion shillings in just about 7 years. And the journey is still very young. And I'm looking forward to the conversation on how we can help the people who have tuned in.
All right. Thank you, Pius. So it's really great to hear that actually people have tuned you with 20 billion, and that you've been doing this for a couple of years, and you're a well-trusted brand. And like I said, the thing about Nabo is really about investing in Africa, and I'm glad to hear that. And I always tell people there's wealth to be created outside Kenya, outside your locality. So you always have to look for the best opportunities. So I'm really glad that Nabo is on that space, and that you're doing what's best for the people who invest with Nabo. So welcome very much. All right. So Dr. Lucy McKenzie, we met a couple months back on NTV, where we're really talking about the diaspora economy. So welcome, and just tell us a little bit about K-NADS and the work that you're doing there.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ms. Anne, for inviting us to this platform. And it is a pleasure to share it again with CEO Pius. I always call him that, and I think he knows there's a background story to why I call him that. So I think it keeps him grounded to always do the right thing. K-NADS is Kenya North America Diaspora Sacco. For those who do not know, the acronym for K-NADS is Kenya North America Diaspora Sacco. It is the first women-only diaspora Sacco. And we are going into our 4th year. We just finished celebrating our 3rd year. And in that short period of time, I think it is proven that diaspora can get together and do investing together. And many of you here I can see are diaspora, either diaspora returnees or you're still in the diaspora. We have all experienced at some point in our lives being in the diaspora where we have been conned out of our hard-earned money by people who come with good intentions to secure our money to apparently invest for us, and that usually doesn't pan out all the time. And so we've had a lot of times where we have we've had a bitter pill on investing in Kenya. But I am here to tell you that investing in Africa, and not necessarily just Kenya, is the way to go. We've got so many opportunities for investing as diasporans, because if you convert the dollar to the shilling, right now I think we're converting it every dollar to 104 shillings, 103 shillings. So for every dollar you're getting an exchange rate that is significantly very high, and you can do very much with it. And so with K-NADS, we are currently, valued at over 350 million shillings in that short period of time. And people are taking loans to invest in Kenya. But just remember that money anywhere, a whole bunch of money, if you convert it in shillings, if you invest in Kenya and you get a good return and you don't want to really come back and live in Kenya, you can use that money anywhere. So it's a shilling or a dollar, it's just money that is named differently, but if you have a whole bunch of it, you can use it in any country. So feel encouraged that we, as diasporans, we have good companies here that we can invest with and build wealth. So I'm looking forward to the questions and engaging in this panel and giving you my insight of what I have seen in the last 6 months of being here.
All right. Thank you, Lucy, very much for that. Most people know me. I'm very passionate about women investing and women in business. So when I heard about K-NADS and what you're doing, I was really quite interested to hear your opinion about that. So my first question actually for you, Lucy, is, so you run a Sacco, which is in the diaspora for women, and you have a couple of members. I know it's about more than about 2,000 and growing each and every day. But my question for you, when it comes to women and creating, when do you think that women will actually move from just buying plots, saving, and actually start investing in other asset classes? Could you give us your opinion about that and what you think?
Hey, awesome question. Yes, this is the time. We are moving in that space now. We are not waiting anymore. What has happened is that historically, women have lived in the space where they were not able to open bank accounts, where land and property, even though they contributed towards the purchase of that property, the man in the home or the guy was the one whose name was written on those titles. We have moved from that space. And we are moving at a very fast pace. Women are the 3rd billionaire in the world in terms of numbers. So any person who is selling a product and is ignoring the woman population, they are backward and they need to move forward. Because women now, not only are we saving money, we know where to go look for stuff. And the good thing about women, the powerful thing about women, we don't know how to hide things. We want to tell our girlfriends. We want to tell our neighbor. So long as you're a woman, we want to tell you about this good thing. So men, and nothing against you, we want you to know that we are coming. And we're not coming to be a threat. We are coming to be able to empower the home. A woman who is empowered financially is a very grounded woman. In terms of that family stays very well driven. I mean, women, we can take a lot. And so the time is now. We don't need to wait. However, we need to be very educated in the space we are trying to go into. We can't just go willy-nilly tulisikia. No, and I like it that Pius is here. He's going to tell us about the other opportunities that are available all over Africa and not just in Kenya. And him and I have had this discussion. When you look at the diaspora, even in the CBD, the Nairobi area, where the diaspora could own like so many buildings, you cannot point at any building that is owned by diasporans. I mean, like a significant building. There may be one or two, but it's not because we can't do it. We've had a lot of fear, but I think women, when they're organized and they're focused and they're driven, because that's all it takes. We need to be committed. And once we are committed to something, we don't look back. And so the time is now. I don't think we're looking back.
Right. Thank you, Lucy. So I hear that. So women have to be organized. They'll have to get the right information, because I always say it's about the right information, and be able to then share it out with the rest of the people so that people can make the best decisions. So I'm glad to hear that, and especially about having empowered women. So I always tell men out there, when women are creating wealth, not for themselves, it's for the family. That includes you and the children. So thank you for that, Lucy. So for Pius, my question for you is, why should people invest with professional licensed fund managers like yourself at Nabo instead of them doing it themselves?
It's a very interesting question, and I want to ask two questions before I answer your question. Number one is, would you rather run and compete against Eliud Kipchoge, or would you rather be in his team?
In his team.
In his team, of course.
So we can both agree, just because you can run doesn't mean that you should go and run and compete against the very best. The other question is, would you rather put money under your mattress or put it in the bank? Which one is safer? Who is the professional custodian of money?
Okay,
You.
the bank.
So it's the same. The question you asked me is exactly the same. Investment is a zero-sum game, meaning there is always a winner and a loser. And we can go around. I can see there are about 17 people here. We can go to each of the 17 people. Someone has lost money and someone has gained money. So in every investment transaction, there's always a winner and there's always a loser. So the trick to succeeding in investment is, how can you position yourself to be on the winning side as many times as possible? And therefore, the people who choose to invest for themselves, they are consistently getting a similar result. They are competing with the very best in the market. They are coming to people like us, competing against people like us who've been in the business, who've been trained to do this. So there is only one result. There's only one result when you compete against Eliud Kipchoge. So the other thing that I like telling people is that investment is a full-time job, not a part-time job. Investment is not a side hustle. That is your core hustle. It's your core job. We go to work to accumulate capital and invest, not to meet bills and expenses. Okay? So this, when we're experiencing COVID, this is the time people are coming to me and they're telling me, Pius, now I see what you've been telling me. I need to separate myself from my investments so that when I am locked in my house, I can continue putting food on the table. I can continue assuring my children they go to school, regardless of when lockdowns will come to an end. And you know what? We could be in this situation for as long as even 2 years. We don't know. Nobody knows. So for me to close on this question, I'd say, if you're not a pro, you've got to choose best professional manager to work with you, to be on your side. Nobody wins alone. You can't win this investment business alone, especially if it is not your core business. Okay, so if you don't have an investment account, I'd say you need to open an investment account immediately if you're really serious about creating wealth. And that's as simple as it is. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Pius. So yes, I liked what you said. You want to be always with the winning team. And I like that because I've been telling a lot of people, especially because if you don't understand the market, you want to work with professionals like Nabo. So I really like that. Be with the winning team, work with professionals, because most people are busy doing their job or their business. They don't understand how the system works. And I'm always telling people each and every day, I have clients who are making money, even during times of crisis like COVID, even during times of crisis, like whenever we have elections, people make money because people are putting them in different asset classes that keep making money in that. Which then comes to my next question, Pius. So what do you think are the current best performing funds and asset classes in Kenya or in Africa? What are the best performing asset classes and funds?
It's another very good question that you ask. And investment cannot be judged at a point in time. Investment is judged over a period of time. So I'd say over the last 5 years, fixed income assets have tended to outperform every other asset class. And they've generated a return of between 12% and 19%. At least when I look at the statistics coming out of our portfolios, the clients that we have. And there are a couple of reasons behind this. Number one, you remember in 2016, there was an interest rate cap. So when the government put the interest rate cap, then there was pressure for interest rates to come down. And the people who are already invested in fixed income assets, they really got some hefty capital gains. And that's why you see some people have made as much as 20% return over the last couple of years. The other thing that has happened is that after the global financial crisis, there was a lot of quantitative easing and cheap money moving around. So global funds have been out there chasing high yield. I don't know how many people monitor what the global markets, but in Europe today, you have to pay the bank to put money with the bank. There is what you call negative interest rates. It is projected that US will very shortly be offering zero yield on their government securities. Zero yield, you get nothing. You get nothing. So this global money that is seated in these countries is looking for a destination where they can earn something. And that has also given birth to something that we today call the Eurobond market in Africa. So the African governments today, almost every big African government has borrowed internationally, Kenya included. That market has increased, is now $105 billion. Yeah. So this is a market that resulted out of a lot of money chasing for high yield. And African governments are in need of capital, but the international governments don't need as much capital as the African government. So global funds chasing for high yield. The other thing that has happened is that the stocks, investments in stocks had become very expensive post the global financial crisis because this cheap money went and bought EABL. Look at Safaricom. Safaricom is largely driven by foreigners. Look at East African breweries, is largely owned by foreigners. Almost every other blue chip company in the continent is owned by the foreigners, and it is expensive. So, or rather has been expensive over the last 5 years. So people are looking for other places where they can make money, and fixed income was a hot area of putting money. The other thing that I can also point out is that in the past, since 2002, there was a very persistent rally in real estate, and land prices shot through the roof. Buying homes became very expensive. So there has been a slowdown over the last 5 years in real estate, and therefore it was no longer as lucrative as it was before, and therefore fixed income was the preferred destination for putting money. So we can have this conversation the whole session, but those are some of the reasons why fixed income has outperformed. However, because I'm an investment professional, I need to caution people that past performance is not an indication of future performance. So this is not a recommendation. I might be quoted tomorrow. Pius said that fixed income is the way to go for the next 5 years. Past performance is not an indication of the next 5 years. So the key action point here is you need to work with a professional who understands the trends and the operating environment, and will tell you this is what is likely to happen over the next 5 years. So this is the best place to put your money. And I'm sure we'll have other conversation at some point. Back to you. Yeah.
Thank you, Pius. That was really like a whole spec of things that you talked about there. And I really like the fact that you were able to differentiate real estate, equities, fixed income, because I always tell people you go to professionals because we know the market, you know the trend, people are not trying to buy real estate now when that market is gone, right? So that's why they need to come to professionals like yourself to be able to help them make those right decisions and invest for them. Another thing that the audience know is actually Pius is a CFA. And what a CFA is a certified financial analyst. There are very few of them in the world. I think in Kenya there are about 100, very few. And so he in East Africa, about 100. Yeah. Can you imagine in East Africa, where we have about, 250 million people, less than 100 are CFAs, which tells you when you're talking to Pius, he knows his stuff. He knows how to listen to him and listen to what fund managers do. And the other thing I also wanted to say when you were speaking, I realized that people don't understand the world is coming to Africa to make money. And yet, if you're in Africa, people are not taking advantage of that. They're not investing here in Africa. They're trying to, go other places. Yet the world is coming to Africa because they understand the opportunities here. So I really like that you touched up on that. And the fact is also, you mentioned about Europe where there's 0% yields, people putting money in the bank and they're losing money because there's also inflation. So people need to be finding opportunities whereby they're making good returns and inflation is not affecting their returns. So thank you for that, Pius. So Lucy, as a person in the diaspora, and I know you're stuck here in Kenya, you probably needed to go back home, but COVID has affected that. But since you're in Kenya right now and a person who's in the diaspora, what have you seen in Kenya that you would encourage people to invest in? In the last couple of months, what have you been researching and where people should be investing in?
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Anne. Okay, diaspora, I know if you're there and you're in diaspora, you're constantly, we are on the fence. Should I invest in Kenya or should I not? Will people steal my money or will they not? The thing is, if you come from every county, now Kenya has opened so many opportunities for us in every county, and I can say pick a county and you can invest there. There is so much, the healthcare is an area which is not very well managed, not just in Kenya, but in Africa. But guess what? Kenya is the destination hub for the East African countries. When people get sick in these East African countries, they come to Kenya because they think Kenya, we have better healthcare. So healthcare is an area. Everybody needs to eat. It's food. We are importing food. So agriculture is an area where anybody can invest in, but you must do it professionally. It is not just the kawaida, you just go plant things without having somebody, an agroeconomist come and test your soil, see what can be productive in that area, and make sure that that land produces what is ideal for that area. And if it's not ideal, what do you need to do to the soil to make it ideal? Manufacturing. Many of the young people here don't have jobs. And so creating an opportunity for them to be able to work through manufacturing, having manufacturing plants, is another area where the diaspora can actually go into that space and become very effective, because we've learned how to do the value of work, we've learned good work ethics and all of those things. So you're bringing your knowledge of the things you've experienced in the diaspora into Kenya, and you now impact the young people who are leaving college, very well educated, but they don't have anywhere to apply that knowledge. Other areas include being innovative. Being innovative in terms of, you don't have to come and do something so grandiose that people, when they see it, they say, ah, now we are Metoka diaspora. No, you can come and look at a process that is being, something that is already being delivered here in Kenya, a product, whatever, and improve the quality of the service. Because customer service is an area where, you know, in Kenya we fall short in terms of how we address customers and how we deal with customer related issues. So we don't have to come and necessarily bring brand new ideas. We can come here and improve ideas that are already in existence and just do them professionally and do them better. So those are some of the areas. It's not all about buying land and even when we buy land, it has to be location, 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 you know? It can't be in the middle of nowhere for the same price of something that should be on the road, you know, where there's actually civilization. So we want to be educated investors when it comes, especially if we're coming from the diaspora. I really think being educated and taking note of things like that will be essential. Back to you.
All right. Thank you, Lucy, for all that information. In fact, when you were talking, you know, you talked about healthcare. You know, you're in healthcare and you understand it, and we've had conversation. It's not even really about the hospital, but the actual operations of this healthcare. And I kid you not, about a year and a half ago, I had an opportunity for one of my clients who was looking to set up a hospital. You'd be surprised, places like Nanyuki, like Kipia, like you're talking about the county opportunity. There are no good hospitals. People move all the way from Meru, Isiolo to come to Nairobi. Yeah, that doesn't even make sense. So the question is, how do we come together? And actually, that's my question. How do you think Africans and the African diaspora can organize themselves and come together and take advantage of this opportunity? How do they come and put together, invest in healthcare? How do they come together and invest in food security? I'm really big on agribusiness. That's an opportunity. I tell people that you can make a lot of money if done right. Yes. Not those quarter selling onions to Marikiti. We're talking about really good agribusiness where you're looking at the whole value chain and value addition. And then you're talking about manufacturing. So you're looking at actually what, you know, the Huru or the Jubilee administration was talking about, the big four. If you actually focus on that, you can make a lot of money. So my question for you, Lucy, how do you think the diaspora can organize themselves collectively so that then they can come together and they can invest and make really good returns, not only in Nairobi, but in the counties and also the rest of Africa?
Okay, oh, great question. And with K-NADS, we've proved that it is possible for diaspora to get organized and do that by just creating trust, because trust is a big factor in anything when it comes to investing. And so how they can do that is looking at the overall good and not selfish gains. And some of the reasons why we don't end up organizing is because we undermine each other instead of being supportive. And so you pick an idea and run with it. And even with that, say for the hospitals, you don't want to just go and build a building. It needs to be a building that is well thought of. Okay, how will things flow? Look at a hospital, because we do have a lot of consultants in Kenya. who are ex-diaspora or have moved from other countries to come and settle in Kenya and have done it for other companies. And so again, it goes back to utilizing experts. And because I don't think money, getting that collective organization of where people are focused on the idea for the overall good of everybody. And really, there are two things you will need to spend money on. When you get sick, you must spend the money to get well. So you will need to go and seek medical attention. Two, when you're hungry, you must eat. So if you're investing in those two areas and doing it well, you have to be present also. You can't just say, just put your money there and you never know what is going on. So utilizing professionals and being present is key. So I think we have seen even in Nigeria, young entrepreneurs who are putting up hospital systems in Nigeria. That is showing that, yes, people are realizing the potential, but seems that the foreigners are realizing the potentials of Africa more than us Africans. So I hope that we are going to actually, as diasporans, we're going to take advantage of all these opportunities before we come back and start renting from the Chinese or from the other foreigners who have bought all our land and built us the apartments, and now we are tenants. Let them come and be tenants for us if they are going to come here and invest. So we do have a huge opportunity, and it is in every country. The Rakanithi is, I think, in those sides of Embu. The county employees of that county live in another county because that county doesn't have housing. Okay, so diaspora, if you're out there, let's go to work. And it's there's a lot to be done. And if you don't really know what to do with your money right now, you have a lot of it. I'm sure Pius will tell us how we can be investing while that money is making us a little bit more interest than than we can make in putting it in a bank in the US or in whichever diaspora country you're in, and be making money until you decide what to do. But if you just keep it in your account and you don't invest it, even if you keep that money 5 years down the road, that money will only be the value of that money. So if you have 100,000, 5 years down the road, it will be 100,000 and a few other extra interest. But if you invest it wisely, it will have moved from 100,000 to a lot of thousands that you can spend. So I think our time for us diaspora is now, and we shouldn't wait for all the foreigners to come to Africa and take up the space, and then we're trying to buy it from them.
All right, thank you, Lucy, for that. And actually 3 things came out. The first one was the last thing you talked about, which about the 100,000. You have $100,000 right now, you keep it, it does nothing for you. And I always tell people 100,000 today is not the same as 100,000 5 years down from now. You'll not have the same ability to use it. So keep it somewhere that you will be able to get returns that beat inflation. And they're simple products, and hopefully Pius will talk about like the money market, which is very safe, that you can access anytime, deposit anytime, whereby you know that you're not losing money, and they're working very hard to beat inflation. So I like that. The other thing, Lucy, I talked about diaspora. You know, one of the things, if you look at the African diaspora, especially Kenyans in the US, a lot of them are in the healthcare industry, right? And, and so they understand it. So, and we have problems here with healthcare. People are going to India all the time, or Israel, or wherever, or London for healthcare, yet the diaspora can come in and invest. And I tell people, even though when people are talking about investing, like now it's about money, creating is about money, but I always tell people you can invest your talent, you have networks. How do you use that to then create money for yourself? And the third thing was really about trust. I know a lot of people, especially in the diaspora, don't want to invest because Who do they trust? Family has betrayed them. Friends have betrayed them. They don't trust government. They don't trust anybody. But then that's why I come and say, you know, hey, why don't you go to these people who are true and tested, like Nabo Capital, right? They're licensed by the Capital Markets Authority. They have a track record for a couple of years. So, you know, that's who maybe you want to start off with and then work from there. So then my next question then goes to Pius. What special offering do you have for a diaspora investor? Like you heard Lucy say, me also being a diaspora and me, you work so hard, you don't want to lose your money. Why should they come and invest with Nabo Capital?
Yeah, no, it's a very broad question, and I'm glad that actually Dr. Lucy is on this call, because we've had a very in-depth conversation around this, and there's a phrase that I used when I was talking to her, which I got when I was traveling in the US last year and just meeting diaspora. It was my first time there, and I listened to a lot of their heartaches. I listened to their experience, and on my way to the airport, I was just jotting down my thoughts, and I wrote this statement on my notebook: invest like a Mzungu, invest like a white man. And it's like I had processed all the information that I'd received, and this is a statement that came out. It was like a revelational moment for me, and I've kept running with it, and I've shared it with Dr. Lucy. And what does it mean? So if I look at today at the kind of money that we manage, more than half of that for a long time has been foreign money. More than half of the money that we manage at Nabo Capital is foreign money. And I don't mean Uganda, from Uganda. I mean from America and Europe, large institutional money. And what I realized, the biggest challenge that diaspora community have is that they've never really transitioned. Their minds have never shifted, that they are no longer in Kenya. So they invest as if they're in Kenya. So they end up investing in very investment projects that require someone to be on the ground. You know, so someone would start a project to build apartments, and they are many, many miles away. And the only person who can take care of it, because they like to do it by themselves, is a relative or a friend who has absolutely no competence in that. So I was just comparing what the diaspora do and what the foreign investors who are part of our clients, what they do. And I say, wow, this is exactly what the diaspora community need to do. I don't even need to come up with a new ingenious product. The foreign investors, or the Mzungu, they invest in what you call financial assets. They don't invest in operational assets, because they understand that they are so many miles away. They cannot be able to have total control of the project. So, but look at the achievements that they had. And I like Dr. Lucy, what she asked. Point to me one major outstanding asset that is in the Nairobi CBD that we can all say this is owned by the diaspora community, despite sending billions of dollars every year for the last couple of years, even propping the Kenya shilling, you know. So, but look at the foreigners. The foreigners, they own Safaricom, they own EABL, they own BAT, they own everything that is big and worth priding in is owned by foreigners. Look at the energy sector. We have 14 independent power projects, power plants in Kenya. 14, and guess what? 13 out of 14 are owned by foreigners. And guess who is behind those pockets of investment? They are the retirees in the US, retirees in Europe. We are missing opportunities right in our backyard because we want to do it by ourselves. Because everybody wants to do their own small project, their own broth, their own apartment. But cumulatively, we are not moving the country forward, but we have the muscle to move the country forward. So when I wrote this statement, I started engaging a couple of people in the diaspora. In fact, there's a team that they call themselves the Dream Team 7. And they said, we will help you to do this. And also, in the same stride, we spoke with Dr. Lucy. In fact, we were supposed to be doing a roadshow in April with Dr. Lucy to just mobilize. And there are 3 things that we want to achieve for the diaspora. Number one, we want to institutionalize the diaspora. It is a high time that the diaspora community comes together. And it may not be possible to have one big company owned by everybody, but we can bring these cells together. K-NADS is one cell with 3,000 women. I've heard of, there's another men's thing also with I don't know how many. There are so many cells. How can we bring these cells together? Okay, so number one is to institutionalize the diaspora community. We speak with one voice. Okay, number two is to enrichen our pipeline of deals. The diaspora community has been abused for too long. We buy what is presented to us, not what we want or what we desire. The only thing that they can buy is what is presented to them. They don't have someone who is on the ground to do the mapping of opportunities, to say the next 5 years, this is where money is going to be made. How do we make big money for the diaspora community? How do we narrow down to 3-4 opportunities that the diaspora community can narrow down and say, we are going to do this. This will be our identity. This will be our legacy. So we as Nabo Capital, we want to be the boots on the ground partner for the diaspora community, to help them, not to bring communities, and then we help them to actualize what they, because investment is like medicine. It's not for everyone. You don't prescribe malaria to everyone. Okay, so the other thing that we want to do for the diaspora community, we want to play an advisory role. We don't want to sell. We want to play an advisory role. We want to guide them to make the best investment choices. We want to give them a variety of opportunities. We want, when a big foreign investor is buying a big block of Safaricom, we want the diaspora community to be the biggest competition to them. And we are capable. So I want to end with this statement. To all the people who are from diaspora and they're listening to me, please consider to invest like a Mzungu. You are not here. Invest like a Mzungu, and you will remember me for many years to come. Thank you. Back to you, Annie.
Thanks, Pius. You know what? I just want to say, don't leave me behind, because this has been my dream. If everyone knows this, I've been talking about how do we mobilize. I've been mapping out the opportunities. I think there are 3 industries or 3 core places that people should be investing. So after this, we will talk. The other thing about invest like a Mzungu, I know I get that all the time, but because I worked for Bank of America, I was in Los Angeles, I always tell people, you don't even know. A lot of people make money in California in agribusiness. A lot of the institutional clients come together and put money into business, you know, private equity. There are other asset classes as opposed to what we know traditionally. But that is why professional money managers are there, so that they can educate you. So I just have to say, don't leave me behind. And I agree that diaspora has to be organized. It has to be institutionalized. I believe there is funding of the pipeline. There's so many opportunities, even at my company, Rebecca, I always get them, but not every opportunity is a good opportunity, because it has to be at the right time. So the diaspora need to understand that. And yes, and playing an advisory role is what, you know, an investment advisor like Nabo does, working with Regal Africa, and we will talk about that. And really the goal here is, you know what, making the right decision, investing like a Mzungu, that's a good. And the last thing I was going to say, I remember you guys, I know you mentioned that you deal a lot with institutional clients. And one of them was a sovereign wealth fund that I think it's I'm not too sure where, but it was a really big deal because you're the only African fund manager that has gotten that opportunity. So when I tell people invest with Nabo, it's because you guys are tested. So really, really good to hear that. So Pius, I see we're running out of time, but this is really interesting. And what I can say for any one of you who have any questions, put them on the chat and we will be able to answer in just a little while. But I really want to talk to Pius about this because this is something I have talked to people to do. And you've alluded to it a little bit. You've talked a lot about the wealthy of the wealthy focus on passive income versus active investment. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because people don't understand that. When I try and tell them the goal is for you to be an investor, the goal for you is to make money work for you, the goal is for you to create generational wealth. They really don't understand about passive income. Can you really talk about that real quick?
Yeah, you know, you've touched on the passion of my life, passive income, and maybe let me say this: passive income doesn't mean you're asleep, and doesn't mean that you become redundant. But passive income is a real test of good investments, and Warren Buffett makes, at least in 2013, Warren Buffett was making $1.5 million even when he was sleeping. The other tech billionaires around him, the Amazons and the Facebooks, they were making $1 million every hour, even when they were asleep.
Wow.
Now, I am talking about the richest 1% in the world. And the key words are even when they are asleep. What about us? Majority of us, when COVID strikes, we have to get handouts from the government to survive. We have to find other lucrative ways to survive, because if you don't show up, I even had I had a lady, I was listening to BBC, and there was a lady saying she no longer cares about contracting COVID. All she cares now is to survive. And she needs to show up at work so that she can put food on the table. That is what we call active income. So the true measure of good investments is a steady stream of cash flows that comes whether you are working or not working. Whether you show up at work or not show up at work. Whether you are sick or not sick. It just keeps coming. The second thing that I would want to say is that passive income is not a get-rich-quick scheme. It is something that you have to do over a long period of time until you finally win yourself off your salary or your business income. The people who are listening to me, do you remember a company that was called Kodak? Do you remember Kodak moment?
Yes.
Every household had something to do with Kodak. If you didn't have a Kodak film, then you did not have photos. That company had employed more than 500,000 people globally. And today, it's an insolvent company. Why? Because times and season change. So even your good business, the business that is thriving today, I tell you, you need to start preparing today for the day it will not give you something back. Everything fails at some point. So the key thing is to have something that separates yourself from how you make money. And that is like a portfolio that is managed by someone else, by a professional manager that keeps investing in the best companies in the world and keeps giving you certain cash flows every month. So for me, I have also made mistakes in investment. I've invested in land that is giving me zero. I've had a situation where I'm looking at my balance sheet, I'm like, I'm asset rich, but I'm cash poor. Until I came to this realization, wait a minute, there is a secret to investing. It's not just an accumulation of assets, it's accumulation of cash flows. So how you started your January, if you are earning 20,000 shillings in a month in January, and you finish December, your cash flow is still 20,000. Something is wrong with your investment. There must be a steady growth in your cash flows, month by month, month by month. So over a long period of time, you will find an individual who doesn't have to show up at work is earning $1 million shillings. Just coming. One of my clients told me something very interesting. She told me, and I use the word she because it's a she, and I have a lot of investors. They are really good investors. But she told me, Pius, passive income is the sweetest income of them all. Even if it is a shilling that comes without you going to work, it is so sweet. It is better than $1 million that you've got to die and to die for. That 1 shilling that comes into your bank account, whether you remember it or not, it just comes. Boom, you see credit card, you see an SMS on your phone saying there has been a credit to your bank account. Passive income. So passive income is something that you build over a long period of time, and it is a steady stream of cash flow. So the real test of a good investment is cash flow. How do you do this? For me, I'd say sit down with a professional manager. You ask, they will ask you, how much money do you need to survive as a family if everything else fails? You come up with that number, and then you craft with that manager a strategy how you will get that number by year X. And then you stick to that plan for the next, let's say, 5 years, and you see it come to fruition. So we call it at Nabo investing with purpose. So you have a goal or an aspiration, and in 5 years' time, I'm gonna do this. And you can apply it in every area of your life, whether it is money that you need to survive, whether it is to buy a car, whether it is to build a home, whether it is anything, we can apply that philosophy. So for us, we do not see investment as one big thing. We see investment as a series of many portfolios, with each portfolio fulfilling certain needs. That's how you get true financial freedom. Passive income. The richest 1% in the world that own 45% of everything, the one thing that sets them apart, they have passive income, and we have active income. Back to you, Anne.
Wow. Thank you for that, Pius. And I know you're very passionate about this. I've watched you talk about it. The same thing I talk about, because I'm always telling people, because a lot of us are starting to create wealth, right? Because we have not maybe come from families who've created generational wealth. So people are starting, and I always tell them, even whatever you're investing now, it's for the 4th generation. So you start doing what's good for you, and you can pass it on. And what I've been telling people, and if they've had me, I've been talking about the SBI formula, which is salary, business profit, and then investment income. So you start with salary and business, but what Pius is saying, the goal is to get to a point where your money is making money for you, the investment income, and it's passively, and then you get to do whatever you want to do. You live the lifestyle that you want, and then you can be able to have extra that you can now do philanthropy. You can be able to then now leave it for the next generation, but the goal is to get to a place where you have passive income, and you really need a professional advisor to work with you with that. Just to point it out, some of you out there have been hearing me talk about a wealth book, e-workbook. It is something that we came up with at Regal Africa, which is exactly what Pius was talking about. We go through this 8-step process all the way from understanding your financial net worth, to investment income, to asset protection, to retirement, to estate planning. Once you have a plan in place, then that's what Pius was talking about. If you know you want to buy a house within 5 years, you want to be financially free within 10 years, you actually set that plan in motion, so then now you can be able to work with that because you'll have a number that you're working towards. So thank you, Pius, for that. I know we are over time, but this is the last question. And then we'll just, I think, 1 or 2 more from the audience. But this last question, and for Lucy, it's sort of 2 in 1. So just
Okay.
answer it with 1. And Pius alluded to it, women and wealth. I like saying that, women and wealth, and then there's men and money. Men like trading and they like doing it fast. But women, I always say women and wealth, men and money. I'll have another show about that. But with women and wealth, it's steady, right? It's true and tested, and it's progressive. What do you think that women, because you are a Sacco of women and you talk to women, what do you think are the wealth creation strategies that women should look at when they're creating and managing their wealth? And then combine that with the last question, which is, what do you think is the next big thing that people should be investing in?
Wow, those are 2 good questions. All right, women and wealth, the drive, the determination, because most of the things, like I said before, we were deprived of them, not necessarily in my generation, but in the generations prior to mine. And then the discipline, because we are able to, even when you're given a budget, you're able to make sure that you cut costs wherever they need to be cut and still be able to save a little money for a rainy day. So for me, it's women need to pay themselves first. Regardless of anything else, before you do anything else, you pay yourself first. Then you need to save for to have a savings culture, which K-NADS has already established by creating a Sacco where you have a discipline that you have to save a certain amount every month that you can borrow to do whatever project you want. So you want to save, then get rid of debt. Because if you have debt, you have high debt and you have credit card debt where you're paying 14%, 29%, that is the rate of how much you're being charged for having this debt. You want to get rid of that debt, because when you have debt, you will not have surplus money to be able to invest. So another strategy is creating an emergency fund, because there's nothing worse than when a catastrophe happens and it blows out all your finances. So if you begin to have an emergency fund, I believe then you would be able to soften the blow should the emergency situation arise. And then get a good financial advisor. I cannot overemphasize that. And educate yourself around whatever it is that you want to invest in. Another thing is you want to protect your assets. Whatever they are, just like we're required to insure our car, make sure you insure your property. In the event of something bad happening, you don't want it that if a flood happened and the building got destroyed, then you have to dig back into your pocket to fix it. Make sure that that property is well protected, so that in the event of a catastrophe, you are actually secure. In some ways, you will be made back to whole. In terms of what is the next best thing, to invest in, as Africans, we need to first believe that Africa has the opportunities, because it's irrelevant whether the opportunities exist and we don't believe they actually exist. So we have to believe as Kenyans, as Africans, that the opportunity does exist in Africa and we want to take advantage of that. Agriculture, like we've talked, we've had a lengthy conversation on agribusiness. That is going to be big time. Subsistence farming is what we learned even when we were in school. People farm for subsistence farming and all of that. That needs to change when you are investing as a diasporan. So we want to do it professionally, and we want do it by even going to the point where we get soil samples and find out what is actually good for the soil where we want to be in. The other areas are healthcare. And then there is, you know, we also want to be investors in big projects that we cannot just do by ourselves. We want to be part of the big things. And Pius and I talked about the investment at, what is that place called in Rwaka?
Two Rivers.
Two Rivers.
Yes.
Majority of those investors are not Kenyans. And why is that? Why was it not us Kenyans who were investing? And the amount that was required to build that building was so, many of us who are on this forum actually have that money in our accounts. So it wasn't going to break our bank account. It's money that we could have easily been able to raise and become owners of this big property. So I'm looking forward to engaging more, but diaspora, this is our time. I think we need to take up this space. Thank you, Anne, for inviting me.
Thank you, Lucy, for those words, and I liked it. Africa has the opportunities to create wealth. We just have to open up our minds and be aware about that. And one of the things I've been telling people about the wealth formula is the first thing you have to have a wealthy mindset. You have to think about abundance. We have to come out of thinking lack or Africa doesn't have, or we have to struggle. We're hustling. No, there is money to be made there. There's wealth to be created. We just have to have the right information. We have to be organized, and we have to work with professionals to do that. So with that, before we end, Pius, give us your last words, and also let us know what you think that the attendees or the audience should be thinking about in regards to what is the next best thing in the investment world.
I think first and foremost, I want to say that in Kenya we have 54 million bank accounts.
Wow.
And we have 200,000 active investment accounts. 200,000 active investment accounts. I want you to tell me which one is the true indicator of wealth creation. To me, it is hands down. An investment account is more important than a bank account. So anybody who is listening to me and they don't have an investment account, I can challenge you, you have not gotten serious enough. After this call, just open an investment account, even if you, with 1 shilling, just say, I have an investment account, and start your investment journey, because that is how you get yourself to working with the very best, to help you to explore what is the next best thing in the next 5 years. And just to talk about that, there is something that we call thematic investing. Today, there is a lot of specialization in investment where people are investing in certain themes. For example, the drones. There's a fund that has been put together just to invest in drones, because going forward, it doesn't look like countries will be sending soldiers to war. We'll be sending drones to go and why? Because our sons and fathers to being killed in the field, when we can send the drones and they can do that job, that same job, better than them. COVID, you've seen Rwanda, they are doing robots to do testing.
Yes.
So people are investing in robots going forward as a thing, because it's another big thing. It's not going to stop. So you need to work with professional managers. Land is how people made the money the last 20, 100 years. But going forward, it will be something totally different, because it's the world is always working in seasons. So for me, I want to encourage people to do 2 things. First step, if you're serious about creating wealth, open an investment account. Even if it is just a money market, just say that day, uncork champagne and enjoy and say, I've opened my investment account, I've begun my journey. The second thing will help you to explore the next 5 years. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Pius, very much. Thank you, Lucy. We're out of time. We've gone over time, but people have stayed. And I know this was a very interesting conversation for me. I really loved it. And I'm glad that Lucy and you, Pius, agreed to be part of this so that we can start letting people know how to create wealth in Africa. The statistics, numbers don't lie, right? So you mentioned about 54 million bank accounts, but only 200,000 active accounts, which to me has not really made sense because I know all of us want to create wealth. So one of the things, and I'll just plug in here, one of the things that I tell people, you can start an investment account, a money market with as little as 1,000 shillings. With as little as $10, you can invest. Now we work with Nabo Capital, so you can invest in their money market. That's at 1 million shillings, $10,000. But it doesn't matter where you are in your wealth creation journey, there's something for you, but you want to speak with a wealth advisor. So you can speak to us at Regal Africa, and you can just email us at wealth@regalafrica.co.ke or info@regalafrica.co.ke, and I'll put that on the chat room. And the thing about it is that if you ask, you will get the answers. If you don't ask, you won't get the answers. And I've been telling people this is the time to listen, to learn, to level up. This is a time because of COVID that you can now plan on what's next. So with that, and before I end, I want to tell people this is a promotion that we are doing at Regal Africa. We have a program. It's a financial workshop that we are doing on Saturday, June 6th, from 10 to 12, which we are calling Faith, Family, and Financial Prosperity. And we're just gonna be talking about how to create wealth, but from a biblical principle point of view, what God says about wealth. So it will be an interesting thing around that. And I'm quite excited to be facilitating that. But the key here is anyone who joins that program, we're actually gonna be giving them 1,000 shillings to go into a new money market account. So again, you start doing what Pius was saying, which is start an investment account. Start with as little as you have, and Regal Africa will help you with that journey. So be on the lookout for our programs at Regal Africa. Like I said, that's a wealth class called Faith, Family, and Financial Prosperity. It's on Saturday at 10, and you can get more information on our Facebook or email us. We have these wealth conversations with Gaitha every Wednesday from 6 to 7. So join in every week, and we'll be continuing to get interesting panelists to come and talk to you and just share this information. If you want access to Nabo Capital, they're one of the 8 partners that we work with at Regal Africa, where we actually did research. So the last 5 years I've been doing research. Who is doing what in investing? Who has the best track record? Who has good returns? Who is the best manager? Because when you're putting your money with any investment advisor, you want to be sure that they're doing the right thing. And we actually work with Nabo Capital. So if you're interested in investing with them, you can reach out to us and we'll be able to facilitate that. And you know your money will be safe. Also, if you want to reach out to Lucy, you can email us, especially if you're in the diaspora and you want to work with Lucy, with organization K-NADS, and you want to start saving so that you can actually borrow to now invest in different asset classes. You can reach out to us at wealth@regalafrica.co.ke, and we will be glad to assist you. And because we're out of time, and this is a conversation that can go on and on, I will go ahead and end right here, but say thank you, Lucy, thank you, Pius, and thank you all for joining in, and God bless you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.